President Macron's travel to Moscow to meet Putin, the German Chancellor's Olaf Scholz meeting with the US President Biden are all part of the many attempts to solve the impasse over Ukraine through diplomatic means, while the concentration of Russian troops around Ukraine is escalating. Against the backdrop of all this, which is threatening world peace, the terrible situation in Afghanistan is reaching a point of no return. They say that the US economic war on the country amounts to humanitarian crime. Droughts, combined with the suspension of foreign aid in the aftermath of the Taliban's takeover, have led to a dire economic situation with 38 million people facing acute hunger and 3.2 million children under 5 suffering from malnutrition. If frozen assets to the tune of $9.5 billion were released, would this only benefit the Taliban and its fighters? Even so, Afghans' assets are only a fraction of the aid the country needs. This is an assessment on the matter by distinguished political analyst Michael O'Hurley.
Concetto, the situation in Afghanistan can only be described as dire. According to UNICEF, some 20 million children will be susceptible to severe malnutrition this year alone. For children under the age of 5, the news is grim. With malnutrition, more than half of the children under the age of 5 are suffering pneumonia with skyrocketing death rates. I spoke to a doctor in one of the northern provinces. He told me on the basis of anonymity that his hospital experienced 130 children's deaths under the age of 5 last month alone. The economy is in terrible shape. It's non-functional. While there is food in the market, there's no money to buy it. Bartering can only go so far. People need a functional economy. The Taliban says that unless their funds are released and international aid is forthcoming from the World Bank and international aid partners, only more death and misery will occur in Afghanistan in the coming year. Right now, there is an effort to consider giving aid to certain NGOs, but the NGOs say that they cannot service the entire country alone. They need a functional economy. We only wait to see if there's a diplomatic solution to this, but if the sanctions on Iran and Cuba and other countries have been any indicator, the Taliban may be long in waiting for money, and the Afghanistan people will only continue to suffer. I'm Micheál O'Hurley with Diplomacy in Ireland, reporting from Dublin for Euroworldnews. Thank you.
In England, the political turmoil surrounding Partygate and the Prime Minister Boris Johnson is being fueled by new, almost daily twists. Yesterday, just like the storming of Washington Capitol by the angry mob incensed by President Trump's speech on January the 6th, 2021, a group of protesters tried to attack the leader of the Labour Party, Starmer, just outside Westminster, who on February the 3rd had been called by Johnson as the former DPP who had failed to prosecute a notorious paedophile, Jimmy Savile. Mr. Starmer had to be escorted by the police to Parliament. This base attack had been fomented through social media. And with regard to Johnson, for whom this last event is another nail on his political coffin, the findings are expected from Scotland Yard on the culpability of those who participated in the gatherings at 10 Downing Street in breach of lockdown rules. We asked our colleague in London, Salvatore Mancuso, editor of the Italian newspapers La Notizia, for his opinion on the matter.
Good evening, Concetto. Regarding the Mr. Boris Johnson, I got some idea that might be personal, and I don't know if everybody is agree with them, but I think is completely, I would say, he has been lying quite a few times, and I don't think is any more believable. wherever, one day yes, one day not, it does something that it creates trouble and problems for him and eventually for us. What happened in the number 10 during the COVID is very difficult to believe that he didn't know anything about it and he was not in control of it. Consequently, I think that he should be fair and eventually resign, not just giving an excuse and saying sorry. He should just resign because he's, like I said before, I cannot anymore believe in whatever he says.
In stark contrast to the behavior of the political entourage at number 10 Downing Street in London, there is an example of dignity and virtue of Queen Elizabeth, who, on April 17, 2021, attended alone the funeral of her husband Prince Philip in the Chapel of St. George, in full compliance with the rules of lockdown. Beyond any partisan ideology or loyalty, we can say that Queen Elizabeth has been an admirably extraordinary woman of impeccable rectitude in a royal role. This year, at the venerable age of 96, she is celebrating her 70th year of reign, the longest period ever for a monarch. 70 years spent with an enduring sense of duty and leadership as a queen. In 2011, received by the then Irish President Mary McAleese, Queen Elizabeth made her very first visit to Ireland, of which we show a few images.
In Morocco, huge crowds laid to rest Ryan Aram, a 5-year-old boy who spent 4 days trapped down a well. The rescue operation in the attempt to save the boy gripped the world, but ended in tragedy. In Slovakia, cars capable of flying have been successfully experimented. But the new car, which is bound to revolutionize public transport, would come with a price tag of €500,000.